Everybody, we're back here. We're back with Randy once again. He share a little bit, maybe more in depth of his walk in this life here, right? Where he's come from, what he's gone through, and just really a desire for him to share a story that maybe, if it can help one more person, if it can just help somebody have some hope, maybe where they need some hope. So, Randy, glad to have you back. I know last
Glad
time,
to be here.
yeah, when we finished up last time, I really felt like, man, I'd like to have you back, and go a little more in depth. So, I just kind of want to hand it maybe to you a little bit and
Okay.
just say, hey, what's
I don't know how much I don't remember in the other one how much I touched on my life of transition.
Mhm.
But that's why I wanted to come back. If I can help stop one person from trying that. I was on antidepressants for quite a few years before I transitioned. And then I was on depressants after I transitioned. And then I tried to commit suicide. So
Right.
none of that really did anything.
right? And so when, like, the antidepressants, like, you were just really struggling mentally with what, like who you were or who you were gonna be, or just did you value? What was it you were really struggling with, like in the lead up?
Acceptance.
Okay.
And when I left my wife, no fault of hers. When I left her, I found a couple that would accept me. Okay. And they told me when I moved down with them in Virginia that they didn't care if I was Randy part-time, if I was Rachel all the time. It didn't matter to them. But that was when I decided to transition, because I was accepted as Rachel. Like I lived my whole life down there as Rachel.
Let me ask you this, if I can. I don't want to ruin your train of
No,
thought
go
either.
ahead,
If
go ahead.
do you feel like you were accepted, like even by your wife? Do you feel like you were accepted there, but it was like mentally you couldn't see that you were accepted, or were you just definitely not accepted in life?
I think it was more perception than anything,
Right.
really. Because I had a lot of friends and I did a lot of stuff with my friends. I mean, that's why you have friends. So I was accepted, but I didn't really feel accepted in my family.
Right.
Okay. Example, my brother was a bowler. I was a bowler. My dad was a bowler. If my brother needed somebody to bowl, he would call me the night of bowling and say, well, the reason he called me the night of bowling was because he couldn't find anybody else.
Okay.
So then I was good enough.
Right.
Okay. Right. But I wasn't at the top of the list, or he would have called me last week when the guy told him he wasn't coming next week.
Right. Right.
So that's where that acceptance is what I was missing.
Right.
And when I moved down to Virginia, I had that acceptance from the couple that I moved in with.
Right. Yeah, and I think I found that. So I found that, Randy, probably in my own life on a different scale. But a lot of other guys that I've talked to, and I'm no psychologist by any means, or never really studied it, but from what I've seen, that early time in life, and especially with our family, and the acceptance we get or don't get, it really does change our perception our whole life then. Because even when for example, when you were accepted, but your perception said, I'm not accepted.
Right.
And it's like, I know that I did this in situations where I pushed people away who were accepting me, and I kind of kept myself in a vicious circle.
Right.
And they didn't want to be around it, so they pushed me away. And rightly so, but then I felt rejected. And I kind of kept myself in a vicious circle.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually. That's a very good way to put it, because, okay, it goes way back. I mean, in seventh, I was, like I said in the other one, I was real small when I graduated high school. In seventh grade, the gym teacher asked me to come out for track. He wanted me to pole vault.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my brother was a year ahead of me in school. He was playing football. Mr. Lund said, why don't you come out for track? He said, you're strong enough to carry a pole. and you don't weigh but a noodle's worth.
Mhm.
So you'd be a good pole
I don't think I've
vaulter.
ever heard that one before. I like it. Noodles worth.
So I go home and I'm like all happy,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm okay. And we sat down at supper as we did every night, and I said to my parents, I said, Mr. Lund wants me to come out for track. He wants me to pole vault. You're not jumping over some bar high up in the air till you come down the other side and break your arm.
Right.
Bill's playing football. He could break his leg every day.
Right.
But I wasn't allowed. And it was just things like that through my whole adolescence that then they wanted me to wrestle.
Yeah.
They needed a wrestler, 98-pound wrestler. That would be me.
Yeah.
And my brother was wrestling, and he come home and he said, they need a 98-pound wrestler. That'd be a good thing for Randy to do. I was already developing a dislike for men at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't see me getting down on a mat somewhere and scrubbing it out with another guy.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that. Not only that, you wouldn't let me jump over the bar. I ain't wrestling.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So there was things like that growing up that people don't think they matter when they do something or say something.
Right.
Okay. But they matter. They matter greatly.
Right. Yeah, I think especially in that family dynamic, because I think even, and I don't know what the case was, right? But even, from your family's perspective, maybe there was a reason they were doing that. But without the proper communication and without you
Right.
really understanding, like, nah, we want you to be successful and we want it, but let's try something else because I'm nervous because of this reason or that reason.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I can't get over it. You know what I mean? So it's interesting, isn't it? How communication.
Well, my Christian friends, the Hans, who were crucial in my walk with the Lord when I was early walking with the Lord, they had a house down at the lake, and they had all the kids were over, and they wanted me to meet all the kids. So I went down, and by kids, I mean they're all married and have kids of their own by now. Okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, I went over, I met them all, and the one son, TJ, is a pastor.
Okay.
And I got to hear him. His one boy did something. I don't remember what he did. That's not here nor there.
Yeah.
But I was on this upper level of the deck, and down below was a cement pad underneath the deck that I was on the top. TJ didn't know I was up there.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to hear him talk to his son
Right.
about what he did, why it was wrong, and it was just I thanked him afterwards. I said, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you taught me something. Okay. At that time I was 60 years old.
Yeah.
I said, and you taught me something.
Yeah.
And it was, that was, never forget that.
Yeah. I can tell it's really an awesome moment for you.
Yeah. Well, it was something like we got our butt dusted, which isn't a bad thing. We got our butt dusted and sat in a chair.
Yeah.
We'll go over there and think about what you did. Where he sat down and he explained the whole deal.
Right. Relationship, right? Yeah, that's and I'm not, I don't want to pull away, but I just find that
It's
in
okay.
my life with God, in that relationship with him. I lived and I came from such a works mentality in life that when I first became a Christian, I kind of just missed the whole relationship thing. And I finally started walking in that. I'm like, this is a whole new world because God explains things to me.
Yeah.
I was always trying to make things happen the right way. And
You don't have to.
no, I'm applying it from the outside.
Right.
It's like it needs to come from the inside out.
Right.
But I'm trying to do it because I don't want to disappoint him. And he's just saying, let me talk
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
Yeah. It's the relationship I have now with God is like totally contrary to the God I knew growing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
It's my parents and my parents haven't even ever asked me to this day yet.
Right.
Why did I stop being Rachel? What makes me better now?
Right.
Not better as in I'm a better person, but what makes me better mentally.
Right.
That
Right.
I don't need antidepressants anymore.
Right.
You know, it took me a while to give them up, by the way, and I would highly
Absolutely.
suggest you don't do that without a doctor.
Right.
Okay, but I had medical supervision. My doctor told me, she said, well, if you ever have a problem and you want them back,
Right.
you know how to get a hold of me.
Right.
So and I would talk to her and tell her how I was doing, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't do it without supervision. But yeah, it's a way better way to live this way
Yeah.
than it is the other way. Because after a while, it was like you almost didn't feel.
Right.
You know what I mean? You were never joyous.
Okay.
You were never sad. You were
Right.
just kind of. You know what I mean? You didn't.
Yeah.
You,
Emotions really are
Yeah.
great, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I know that nobody wants to, deal with the bad side of emotions or something, but emotions are great.
yes.
You know,
Yes.
they're God given. I mean,
Yes.
He created us that way,
Yes.
and it's I can't imagine living life without emotion.
My friend Pam in Virginia or in Ohio. I met them in Virginia. But anyway, I was down to her. I went out to Ohio to see them a while back. And I went to church with Pam. And she made a post on Facebook. And she said, it was so great to have Randy there. We were just praising God and he was crying the whole time. And it's like there with the Hans, my emotions are okay. I can, like growing up, you couldn't do that.
Right.
You know, you had to be a manly man where I grew up.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I
Not
was
allowed to have it.
I was not such. Okay.
Right.
And I think that may have had something to do with how I felt not being accepted was
Right.
because of that. I just wasn't that way.
Right.
And my dad has talked to me. I was down, took him to the doctor, I don't know, 2 months ago. Anyway, he said something about he wished he would have done things different. And I said, well, here's the greatest part about being a Christian, Dad. You go back, you fix what you can.
Yeah.
If you can't fix it, you give it to God.
Yeah.
And maybe he can't fix it, but he can work on the person to get them to understand.
Can begin the healing process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only other thing I really want to talk about, Mark, is the transition thing, because it ends in, I see a lot of kids doing it now, and it's a road to nowhere is
Right.
what it is. It'll leave you as when you're going through the transition, every little thing feels good. Like the first day you get to paint your fingernails and you go to work. That feels really like you did, you know what I mean? Like you
Okay.
did something.
Right.
When I got on female hormones, that was another step. Okay. It's like, this is good. This is good. I grew breasts. Okay. That was another step. Like, yeah. And then I got implants. That was another step, you know, and it's all, but then when I was done, when I came to the end and I was just Rachel all the time, I felt just as terrible as I did before when I was Randy. You know what I mean? It didn't accomplish anything didn't fix my head. It didn't fix my insides. And when I came to God, it all got fixed.
You're healing, right?
Yeah.
Like the mental state is coming back.
Yeah, I'm way better now as far as mentally than what I was any time along that whole journey.
Right. Right. Yeah. So when you were, and I guess I'm taking us back in the story a little
That's
bit too.
okay.
Just to the beginning where you were talking about the antidepressants and how now you didn't really have any emotion. Like when you were going through that, was there conflict inside of you? Like, maybe I don't want to do this, or yeah, I want to do this. I don't know. Do I want to?
There was times when I didn't want to do it. Okay. When you first start cross-dressing, you come to a point where you really don't want to you do not want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we call that purging. You'll take everything you have as far as women's clothes or whatever, and You'll just throw it away. No matter how much money you spend on it, you'll just throw it away. Get rid of it. And you're done with that. Yeah, that might last 6 months, 7 months, and then you're out buying stuff again. Okay. So, I forget.
I was just asking you about the conflict inside if you were having it. You were saying,
yeah,
I would get rid of stuff, but
yeah,
then I would
yeah,
come back.
yeah.
so-
Everybody does that. And even after I was transitioned, there was still times when I was like, oh man, I don't know. You don't know, but I was getting so much support from the people I lived with and their friends and their family. Like it was almost like they were on my team. They were on my side.
Yeah.
You know, and I got thrown out of their house. And when that happened, and I bought my own house, and then Cindy had already been praying for me. Okay. And that's when I got away from all that support. That's when I came to God. And Cindy's praying for me because I was still full-time Rachel. But God fixed it. It was it's still best miracle I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, well, and it's real, right? I mean, yeah.
Well,
You
yeah.
can hear stories, but you've experienced
Right,
this.
right,
And,
right.
I find it interesting. Like as I'm listening to you, I find like parallels in my own life, and they're smaller things or whatever, but where I keep having this behavioral pattern, and I hate it. But I keep going back to it, right? It's like
right.
in scripture where it talks about, a dog returns to its vomit, and
Yeah.
it's like, but then God will get a hold, like he'll begin to like that pastor talk to his son. He begins to start explaining things to me.
Yeah.
He starts, teaching me and showing me through life examples why this is a better way to do it over here. And all of a sudden, like it changes, it renews my mind, and I begin to have different outcomes. And it's amazing. But I've been caught in that conflict, although different. It's that conflict of I don't want to be doing this, but I'm doing this.
But yet I keep doing it.
Yeah, or maybe I do want to do this, and there's people that out there that are happy to encourage me to do this.
Right.
There's a part inside of me where it's like I hate this man that's coming. I don't want to be that. You know?
See, when I had that encouragement, and their family was there, and they were there, that was like. And I don't want to put it on them because it was still my decision. Okay. Like you can't blame your bad decisions on someone else.
Right.
Your bad decisions are your bad decisions.
Right.
You made them. You gotta be responsible for them. Okay. So you can't blame it on someone else, but as long as you have that reinforcement there, you'll keep going back to it because we love our sin. That's just how we are.
It makes you feel accepted, right? I mean, there was that inner yearning that felt it was getting satisfied, but then it wasn't getting satisfied.
Right.
But you were getting partial satisfaction, so you're gonna keep going back.
You keep going back, yeah. And then when they told me to move out, and I didn't have that anymore, I had already been talking to Cindy at work, and Cynthia, I'm sorry. Her real name is Cynthia. I knew her as Cindy for a long time before she went back to her God-given name because she wanted to use her God-given name of Cynthia instead of Cindy. So anyway, it's all the same person. So anyway, Cynthia, I had already been talking to her, and we had been doing stuff together, which is part of the reason, minuscule part of the reason, but it's part of the reason I got asked to leave the house. Was because I was spending time with Cynthia, and we were like reading the Bible, and you know what I mean? We were. It was like Cynthia spent a lot of time on me.
Yeah, she was a good friend.
Yeah.
Probably still is. Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
And she was. It was the quality of the time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it was. I don't know. She was the first. I would say she was. I shouldn't say that. I can't say that. after I was in the lifestyle, after I had transitioned, she was one of the only people that would tell me the truth.
Mhm.
And if you haven't been to church in a long time,
Yeah.
and you've been living over there in your sin, every week when you go to church, it's sermon's going to be about you.
Yeah.
So just get ready for that, okay? I even asked my pastor down there, Pastor Dave, I said, why do you write every sermon? Every week I come here and every sermon you write is for me. He said, I don't write it for you, but if you're guilty.
If it's applying, it can apply.
Right.
You know?
And it was like, I mean, every week for probably, I would say, the first 6 to 8 weeks that I went to church. And it was just like fiery darts coming out of the pulpit. But he was a good guy, and I talked to him a lot, and his wife, and they got me through some stuff, and they pointed me to the scripture. I think it's in Deuteronomy where he says, a man wearing women's clothes is an abomination.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think to myself too, like, I remember this one pastor. He since passed away, but he was such a blessing in my life. And when he'd be talking about sin all the time, he'd be talking about, you know, sin and how often it's meaning like missing the mark, you know, and how God and we're designed, we're created. This whole thing is designed and created to work a certain way. And I keep in my own head likening it, you know, if I have a gas engine and I'm putting diesel fuel in,
Yeah, it ain't gonna work.
it's going to run horribly, you know, if I can get it to start.
Right,
it's going to smoke
right.
and it's going to be a disaster. And when we're missing the mark, it's like putting diesel fuel in a gas engine because we're not hitting the design.
Right.
So it's not smooth.
Yep.
Or going down the road with a flat tire. You know, it's like, boy, this is rough, or no suspension. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and it's just amazing how when we can start getting corrected and into that actual design, like, man.
And if the kids, I think and most of them won't, but I think if the kids today had more church and less, I mean, I grew up in the church, so that maybe isn't the answer, isn't the whole answer. But I think if they had more church, like the church I belong to now, like I go to church, I don't get preached at.
Yeah.
Pastor Shane was on here with you.
Yeah.
And he never preaches at us, he teaches us.
Yeah.
He teaches us what's in the Bible. Like in the Lutheran church, I never heard about being born again.
Right.
That wasn't an option.
Right.
You know?
Well, there's a difference, isn't there, between like religion, and I know it's in the Christian circles, it's
Right,
a
right.
saying or whatever.
Right,
like,
right.
There's a difference between religion and relationship.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it just
Oh,
is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that, like, I don't know, I get the feeling in the Lutheran church, which I grew up in, they teach you like what they want you to hear. One of my favorite scriptures is, and I just read it the other day. I think it's in Mark, I'm not sure. The traditions of men make the word of God of none effect.
Right.
And that's what it is. It's so much tradition in even I don't know how the other religions are. In the Lutheran church, there's a lot of tradition, you know, like, and you don't have that so much in the church I attend now.
Right.
And you didn't have that in the church I attended in Virginia.
Right.
Matter of fact, I attended 2 churches in Virginia. They were both teaching churches.
Right.
They taught you about the Bible.
Right.
They didn't just stand up there and.
Right. Yeah, and it's almost like, and you know, I'm no scholar, but we all know that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
At this
Well,
point,
me either.
This is obvious, right? But it's like, it seems like in my head anyway, like tradition isn't bad, but when you have like this true understanding, you'll kind of be fulfilling the tradition almost,
Right.
because it's just kind of the outward of what's coming out. But when you're trying to, you know, put that tradition on from the outside, but it's not in you, it's hard. And
Well, I
causes
think
trouble.
a lot of that comes down, and this is going to sound horrible, but it's how I feel. I think a lot of it comes down to power.
Yeah, and could be. Yeah, could be.
They want to wield power over you. And the church with Pastor Shane, where I belong now, there is none of that. There is,
Right.
you know, he wears a polo shirt when he preaches. He's no better. He'll tell you he's no better than any of us.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
he has his struggles just the same as I have mine.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And he's just down to earth. And you would never hear a pastor say that in a Lutheran church. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Well, and you know what? There's always the trap, Randy, right? Is of even when you're not trying to wield power over someone, you may be, but you have the best intentions, right? Like they may have the best intentions for their
Well, yeah,
congregation,
yeah.
but maybe it's not
Right.
it's not coming out right.
Yes. Yeah, that's a much better way to say it than
No,
I
yeah, but I got to say, I know, Pastor Shane, not on an amazingly deep level, but he's a real good guy.
Yeah,
I always enjoy.
Yeah, and
Talks with
I mean, he even he goes so far as to make Bible study fun. Okay.
Right. So
Maybe it's fun for me now because I have a relationship instead of like being. I mean, you're still, at least I am. I'm still scared of God. Okay, but I also know that I can go to Him with anything I have. I can talk to Him about it, and
right.
He'll show me the right way, and you know what I mean.
Right.
His Spirit's in me. I mean, how it can't get no better than that.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right. So I'm going to steer us back.
Go ahead.
I think you and I are real good at rabbit trails here, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I am.
I know I am too. I think, well, I'm about to take off on another one.
Yeah,
So
well, go steer back.
We're going back. So back to, again, the transition, right? And see if I can keep this thought long enough to put it out here with it. But you went from a place, right, where okay, I emotionally, I don't know if you shared this or not. Hopefully I'm allowed to.
Go ahead.
I know you said to me that at one point, you wanted to commit suicide.
Oh, yeah, I did. I tried. I just didn't succeed.
Right. So you went from a place like mentally you're struggling, you're on antidepressants, that whole mental state. And I think when I'm looking at all of that, it's like you needed to heal. You needed to heal from some things that happened in the past, but you weren't even aware that you needed to heal. You were kind of going through this struggle in life, and you didn't know where to turn to heal, and you probably didn't know exactly what you needed to heal from. And now that you've kind of come to God, He's started that healing process.
The one thing, I don't know if I said this before, the one thing you will learn in therapy, and this is the only thing I learned in therapy, nothing is my fault.
Right.
Okay. Everybody else gets the blame for everything. And that the first thing you got to do is come to grips with what you did. And then from there, and God helped me to do that. I mean, I would have never said that. I would have never said that some of this is my fault before, because I could blame everybody. I had enough people that I could just say it's all their fault.
Right.
Okay. But it's not their fault. It's your fault. The way you react to what they do to you is that's on you.
But that kind of comes from that. They did do these things. So whatever it is, right, that made you feel so rejected coming out, that was real. It really did happen.
Well, yeah.
And you probably at the time didn't know how to respond. So you just responded with maybe surface level emotion because it's all you knew or had. But somewhere along the line, you came to the place of saying, I can't keep responding this way. I've got to change the way I'm responding, and I need help to do it. Right?
Not until I met God.
Right.
Not until I met God did I feel like that I could change, because I knew what I knew.
Right.
At that point, I had been alive for, I don't know, 60 years.
Right.
And I knew what I knew, and it was the same thing. I did the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
And when God found me, I changed the way I do things. People that were in my life previously don't understand that or don't want to recognize it, but that's okay. I just keep praying for them, and God will deal with that. Like I told my dad, fix what you can fix and give the rest to God, and let Him do that.
Yeah. And it's a reality, right? We're all working on the knowledge we have at the time and our understanding of things, and we make mistakes. I mean, it's just plain and simple for all of us. Right. And so being able to forgive, and then take responsibility for how am I going to go about it?
Right.
That is the important thing, isn't it?
And now it's changed. It's changed how I react to things now. I'm just like, there's times I can't believe I'm as different as I am.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like that was a person you used to know.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah. It's like I don't
recognize
know
him
him no more. You
Right.
know, God has done a work in my life that nobody ever could have done.
Right.
No person could have ever done what God has done. It's yeah, it's all God. I wish I could take some credit. Okay.
Well, it's exciting. You know what's exciting is that I found myself so many times in a place where I felt like stuck, you know, and I don't have a way out. But then he begins to show me that way, and
Yep.
it's hope. It brings me hope that there's no position I'm going to be in life that, one, he won't talk to me, you know, and that two, he won't lead me out of, and I don't have to be embarrassed to go to him with anything.
Right. Right.
I'm bringing it, you
Yep.
know. When you did try to commit suicide, was that before transitioning started? In the middle? Was it after?
I had transitioned probably. I would say I was about 3 years in.
Okay.
3 years in, I was when I tried to commit suicide.
So you were in the middle of the transition
Yeah.
already. So really, then transitioning wasn't
right.
it wasn't helping your
No.
mental state.
No, there's been studies. There was one study in Sweden that showed that the suicide rate after transition is 15% higher
Mhm.
than it is before transition. There's been other studies that show that it has no effect.
Okay.
It like the number of people that try to commit suicide before transition is equal to the number who try to commit suicide after transition. Like it's just so the transition has nothing. It doesn't
Not
accomplish anything.
Right.
It doesn't do anything, and it didn't do anything for me. The only thing it did for me was when I saw my parents when they came into the psych ward, because if you do that, you'll be in the psych ward for at least a week. Okay, so if you don't want to be in a psych ward for a week, don't try to kill yourself. I was in there for 2 weeks, but anyway, when my parents came to visit me and I saw the effect that what I did had on them, buddy, I'll never do that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just they probably could have been in the psych ward at that point. Not just
Connected with you.
jokingly,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah. It
they
affected me emotionally.
they were in pretty bad shape, really.
Yeah.
And I was surprised because I always had this feeling that nobody cared.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's that perception thing again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah. I always had that feeling. And yet, when I tried to commit suicide, the two people that I thought didn't care cared the most.
Right.
You know?
Right.
They were, yeah, don't do that. Just don't.
Yeah.
Just don't. Talk to your parents first.
Yeah. Yeah. Really think this out, right? Like,
Yeah.
and really, I think something encouraging that I hear from you anyway is that, you know, there's nobody's like outside of the church, and I don't know how involved the church really is with it. But nobody's really giving somebody a place to go. Like you said, you know, to the psychologist, which blames everyone else, but doesn't give you a path to freedom.
Right,
Doesn't give
right.
you a hope.
Right.
It just,
By the same token, though, I truly think, and I think this is in my testimony, that if one of my counselors would have said, well, why don't you try going to church?
Mhm.
I'd have been like, yeah, right.
right.
You know what I mean?
I do.
I don't think, unless you're brought up in the church, I don't think it's something, and I was brought up in the church, but unless you're really brought up like with a relationship with God, I don't think it's something that most of the people are going to be open to, because they don't know anything about the relationship. They know about being preached at every week, being told you're no good, being, you know,
You've got to stop sinning, cut your sin out.
Right.
And here you are. How are you going to walk into that as Rachel?
Right.
You're not
right.
going to be accepted again. You're going to go through that all over again.
Oh no, I did it in a church in Virginia.
Right.
I did. I walked in as Rachel.
Right.
And
how were you received?
I told the people in my testimony when I gave it to the church down there, I said everybody in that church had a hand in my
Oh, it's
detransition.
fantastic. Yeah.
Because nobody ridiculed me, nobody told me to get out. And my dad's church just went through a split because half of the congregation thinks those people should not be allowed in church.
Right.
Okay. God didn't come to save the righteous. Okay. He ate with sinners and tax collectors. Okay. So
And nobody likes a tax collector. Nobody likes to pay taxes.
yeah, not
I'm
even
kidding.
like today.
I'm kidding.
So, but if you don't leave the people, and my dad and I talked about this. I said, Dad, if you don't leave them in, how are they going to hear?
Right.
Don't change what's coming from the pulpit. Preach the same message. As long as you're preaching the Bible, preach the same message. And if they don't like it, they can go out the door they came in, but you can't not leave them in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, where are we going to go?
Right.
Where's everybody going to
Right.
go? Right. I mean,
Right.
it's just like,
Right.
yeah, if I was kicked out of church because of, sin, I'd be in a lot of trouble. I never would have been allowed to walk
right,
in,
Exactly. But people see humans look at it at levels of sin.
Absolutely, we do.
Like
Yes.
like murder is worse than adultery.
Yes.
Okay. God doesn't look at sin like
He
that.
doesn't.
Sin is sin.
That's
It doesn't matter what sin it is. The humans put on,
We do
the
level.
humans ranked it. Okay.
Yep.
Which is how we came up with our penal system. Okay.
Sure.
If you kill somebody, you're in there for 40 years.
And listen, I have a hard time getting that out of my mind. I'm still with some of the ranking system, but not as far as going to church. I'm not there.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you steal a candy bar from the corner store, that's sin just the same as murder's a sin. And so if you're not going to leave people in because of the way they look or because of their lifestyle, where are they going to go to hear about God?
Yeah. Well, I'm encouraged by, because I think every church circle I've been in is willing to let anybody in. You know what I mean? I really believe that. But I would think that in a lot of church circles, the struggle where there's splits because, do we want to let them in, this type of person in or that type of person?
You got to leave them in the door.
But I'm encouraged that you went in and you were accepted and you were loved and genuinely cared about. That's like
that was like that and that was the Church of God in Virginia, and it's actually the Bedford Church of God in Bedford, Virginia.
Yeah.
And I told all them people when I gave my testimony, I said, you all had a hand in this.
Yeah.
Because if you would have ridiculed me or anything when I first came in, I'd have walked right out the door.
Right.
The same day I come in, and I'd have never come back.
You want to be able to handle that rejection.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you had enough of it in your life.
Yeah, I had enough of that. So but it was you got to leave them in. If you don't leave them in, that's a sin on your part.
Right.
So anyway, my dad stayed with, and I think he was going to anyway, but we talked about it, and the part that didn't want to leave him in, they went and got their own building, their own church, and I would call it the main part of the church, which is with my dad and that crew. They stayed together and they agreed that they should leave him in. You just got it.
Yeah,
you got it.
Let's let everyone in. Yeah.
If they don't like what's being preached, the same as I didn't like it for 6 or 8 weeks when I was in Virginia, but it didn't stop me from going.
Right.
Because I already had the Holy Spirit in me then. So.
Right. If you want something new, you got to do something different.
Right.
I mean, that's
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
I may not like it.
Right.
But I'm going to try.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna try this avenue here. I don't know if this correlates or not, but in my head it does. So
okay, we'll give it a
I
shot.
watched the other day. Watched that movie, Jesus Revolution. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, I did.
But when the guy Lonnie was talking, and he's saying, I'm looking for truth, and I've been, and that's why I'm part of the hippie movement, basically. And I've tried drugs, I've tried all of these things. And I've realized it hasn't changed me. And there was another character in there, Greg, who was saying the same thing.
He's still a pastor today.
He is, yeah. And it's
Greg Laurie.
It's not. I don't want to be let down again if this isn't real. You know what I mean? But then, as they start to experience, this is real. God really is helping you through this. And there's hope. Like that's the thing to me.
Well, see, I was down that same road. I did all the drugs,
Right.
Not all of them. I did a lot of drugs. I didn't do them all.
Yeah.
I did a lot of them. Okay. And the thing about, here's how I relate this. The thing about drugs is you want more.
Mhm.
Okay. You want more, but the effect wears off. But you want more. So you keep going back. You keep going back. And there we are back doing the same thing over and over and over. And you always want more and you want more. Once you have God and his Holy Spirit's in you, you got all you need.
Right.
You know what I mean? That need now is like, I couldn't tell you the last time I thought about doing drugs, you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah. I think that's the thing. That's what I get out of a lot of what, that correlation between, that Greg Laurie, what he was saying and what you're saying is it's like, this is real.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be let down, but I'm not let down.
Right. Exactly. And you can't explain what it's like to be spirit filled to somebody who's not spirit filled.
Mhm.
You can't explain to somebody about how you feel, the joy that you have day in and day out.
Right.
And that's not to say it's all peaches and cream.
No.
It's not. There's hard times and there's bad days, but you can always go back and get the joy.
Yeah. And you have that hope. Hey, this,
Yeah.
there is a way out of this. Where
Right.
before, when you're on antidepressants, it's like, I'm just here.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just here.
Just existing is.
You're muddling through.
Yeah, we weren't created to do
No,
that.
you're created for great things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is anything else you really want to share? Anything else you?
I can't think of anything now, but I will when I leave here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll say I should have said this. Why didn't I ask that question?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
listen, we can always
Yeah.
have you back on again
Yeah.
down the road.
Anytime. If my testimony can stop one person from living that life, and I really, well, now here's something else. I really feel bad for all the kids that are going through this, whose parents are more or less making them.
Right.
Okay. Then kids are going to grow up. They're going to turn 18 and they're going to wonder what happened to their body. At least in my case, I was 58, I think. Okay. When I started. So I was 50 some, and at least I made the choices myself.
Right.
Those kids, their parents are making the choice for them.
Right.
And that is just like, I had a friend of mine whose one son came home. I think he was in first grade when it happened. And he said, Dad, I want to be a girl. And his dad and mom got together and they sat him down and talked to him and said, well, if you want to be a girl, we'll have to change your name and we'll have to do other stuff. And oh no, he says, I like my name. But that's how, I guess what I'm trying to say is that's how shallow you are at that age.
Sure.
You know what I mean? He wanted to be a girl, but he didn't want to change his name. Okay. So that was enough to stop him. And now I guess, geez, I don't know. He'd have to be probably 14 or 15 now. And he's never gone anywhere else with it. You know what I mean? They kind of like nipped it in the bud.
Yeah.
And it was a feeling he had. And it came and it left. And everything is great. And he's...
Listen, I'm sure there was times as a kid I wanted to be Superman. I'm glad no one threw me off the roof. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
a fly.
Yeah, but your hair's not blue either.
So I mean, there's reality in that as kids.
Right,
you know,
right.
You want to do a lot of things.
Right. And the parents that are allowing them to do it,
Yeah.
they're the ones that are going to pay the price. The kids aren't going to pay the price.
Boy, there's a lot of prices being paid there. Yeah.
For I forget how Jesus said that. Anyone who hurts one of these little ones would be better off if he had a millstone thrown around his neck and thrown in the sea.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is serious.
So,
yeah.
But we're so far away from God. You know, it's just so far away from Him. We got to get back to God. That's
it.
What our country was founded on.
And there's hope there. I mean, there's always hope right there, you know, and that's,
yes.
So I think, you know, when I just in my head quick and I just go over, you know, our talk here today, just think to myself, you know, that's the biggest thing that just stands out to me.
Yes.
You know, that if anybody is out there, and it doesn't matter the struggle, you know, because whether it's the struggle the size of transitioning that you went through, which in my head, again, I'm still in that level. I'm ranking things, you know, that to me is a monumental struggle, and it's real. And that's a big hurdle. And I feel like all my hurdles were real little, but I'm still tripping over a lot of them, you know, but there's hope. And I've
Right.
found myself overcome them as you found yourself overcoming, to the place where I've never even thought of committing suicide. You know what I mean? But you're at the place where you tried to commit suicide. It's a low spot in life. And you're at a place now where it's like, boy, I'm loving life. And
Yeah.
it's hope, you know, no matter what the hurdle is you want to climb, there's hope. There's hope in God, in a relationship with God.
Yes.
You know, religion,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't suggest religion,
Right.
but that relationship with
A
God.
relationship with the man who made you. There's nothing.
Yeah, and we're created. It's the
Yep.
biggest, you know, lie that we just poof.
Yeah, but there's so many, and there actually the one guy I listen to, Pastor Alan Jackson. He's from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. This is how God moves. His church started out with a Bible study in his parents' basement with 7 people.
Mhm.
It is now a mega church.
Mhm.
He went to school. He was going to be something to do with science. I forget what. But through his study of the sciences, he came to find out that there's a lot of stuff in the Bible that can be proven.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and people don't ever hear that. They don't hear that there's stuff in there that's provable.
Oh yeah.
Beyond a doubt. And he did a whole thing one week on why we can rely on the Bible, and how it was all these translations in different languages, but they all said the same thing.
Right.
You know, that doesn't happen with any other book. Only happened with one book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's yeah, Pastor Allen, he's a good guy to listen to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started out with 7 people, and now he's got a mega church. They have, I think, 2 sanctuaries outside. They have 3 sanctuaries inside, but their church isn't like a church.
Mhm.
Their church, they have food trucks come to their church.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you got to buy the food, but you're there long enough, you're going to get hungry.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, that's all I have for today.
That's the end of that. So here
Yeah.
it is. So, but anyway, yeah, thanks for coming in again.
Well, thanks
Yeah.
for having me again. I appreciate
I
it.
always enjoy it.
I hope we got to 1 person.
Yeah. Well,
Hopefully we got to 1,000, but I'd be happy with 1.
Yeah, my channel's not real big right now, Randy. You know, I don't know if we might get a couple hundred, you know, but
well, you got to get some advertisers and stuff.
listen, you know what? It's what it is, right? And yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just like his church, though. It didn't start out with 3,000 people coming to church.
That's all.
It started out with 7 people.
Yeah, if I think with the idea of the channels, I want to be able to share what God's done in my life, and
Right.
I want to help others share.
Right. That's what it's about. It's about helping other people,
Yeah.
because that's what we're supposed to do. We're called to disciple other people to the Lord.
And any way we can help, right?
Yes.
That's
That's it.
So there's hope, and hopefully keep tuning in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thanks again, Randy.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys later.
Okay.